coverage you can count on. KOMU 8 News starts now.
That's not why any of us were elected, Mr. Speaker. None of us.
Debating over what to wear to work isn't what some Missouri lawmakers thought was in their job description, but it happened this week in Jefferson City. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain.
And I'm Evie Allen. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Now, Missouri's Capitol is making national news today. The reason why? Well, the new dress code passed by House Republicans.
A dress code is commonplace among lawmakers, but this new dress code made stricter changes only for women. The old dress code called for women to wear a blazer or sweater in the chamber, but the proposal wanted to tighten those rules to state women could only wear jackets. The changes were spearheaded by Republican Ann Kelly, who says, quote, "It is essential to always maintain a formal and professional atmosphere," unquote.
Well, Democratic lawmakers were quick to speak their minds on the House floor, many of them calling the bill, quote, ridiculous.
I spent $1,200 on a suit and I can't wear it in the people's house because someone who doesn't have the range tells me that it's inappropriate.
You know what it feels like to have a bunch of men in this room looking at your top, trying to decide whether it's appropriate or not?
The dress code that eventually got passed allows cardigans along with jackets, but still requires women's arms to be covered.
Well, I will show that Ms. Adams has refused to come.
Emma Adams, the suspect charged in a gruesome Columbia homicide, refused to appear in court today. Officers found human remains outside a North Columbia home Tuesday. Investigators were led there after tracking an Uber ride they say the victim took from a dorm on MU's campus to the house on Bentley Court. Investigators are still trying to officially identify the victim because of the condition of the body was in when officers found it. But the community in the area is still in disbelief. One neighbor says in her 16 years of living in the neighborhood, she's never seen anything like this before.
It certainly makes me want to be more aware of who lives beside me from now on.
Adams' court proceedings are now rescheduled for tomorrow at 1 p.m. Her bond remains at $1 million cash only. New information today on the deadly standoff in a mobile home community last night.
That's right. We now know the details surrounding the police shooting of 28-year-old Jordan Pruin. Officers first responded after getting reports of a weapons disturbance and multiple assaults. Now, when officers arrived, they say Pruin had a gun and threw it to the ground before barricading himself in his home. Officers could not communicate with him until he came out and ran at them with a knife. He was then shot. Now, Police Chief Jeff Jones offered his condolences to Pruin's friends and family.
Everybody. We really try to have all the resources in place to get to a conclusion that's different than what we had last night.
Now, according to a probable cause statement, Pruin pointed his gun at multiple people before police arrived, and he hit two people with his gun, including his girlfriend. KOMU 8 talked to a neighbor today who agreed to speak off camera. Now, she says the situation could have been much worse if police didn't show up when they did.
That poor woman was hobbling, trying to get away from him, and he was running right behind her, and he had it pointed right at her. I think he would have killed her. I really do.
Now, she adds this is not the first time Pruin had a violent outburst since she's lived there.
Some of us woke up to a lot of snow this morning, unexpectedly so. Some of us woke up to what we were forecasting, little to nothing. Little to nothing was the story of Columbia. You can see this photo here from Tim this morning. Just a light dusting on the car, but Jefferson City, a big difference. This photo coming to us from Isaiah, about 3 inches of snow recorded this morning. So I wanted to explain what happened. Here is the satellite and radar picture. We started with rain, saw the transition to snow as the cold air was filtering in, but with the rain, we were seeing a little bit of thunderstorm activity. And with that thunderstorm activity, there was enough leftover energy that we were able to get some thunder snow on the backside of it. That thunder snow leading to precipitation rates that were increased. Think when we have thunderstorms in the spring and in the summer. Usually you get a quick downpour with that. It's the same thing with snow, but the difference is snow adds up a lot faster. 1/10 of an inch of rain is roughly about an inch of snow. Well, if you get a 1/4 inch downpour in a rainfall system, that's 2.5 inches of snow. It's a big difference. It adds up a lot quicker. And that's why areas from the Lake of the Ozarks to Jefferson City to Eldon saw that increased snowfall this morning. It's because we saw thunder snow during the morning hours. Thankfully, all this is gone, and we are looking at smooth sailing conditions. But if you're on this map, Jefferson City, St. Thomas, Eldon, the Lake of the Ozarks, let's watch for some isolated refreezing overnight.
All right, thank you, Matt. Well, the Thompson Center Clinic for Autism and Neurodevelopment in Columbia is growing. A grand opening today gave visitors a look inside the newest facility. KOMU8's Kalia Gaither toured the space today. Now, Kalia, can you tell us what the clinic offers?
The new clinic is offering a much larger clinical space to better serve their patients. The Thompson Center focuses on individuals with autism and other developmental difficulties. I spoke with a mother today whose son was diagnosed with autism before his 2nd birthday. She says she believes the services he has received from the clinic have significantly improved their life for the better.
My son was diagnosed with autism a few months shy of his 2nd birthday. And when we moved here to Columbia, we probably became involved with the Thompson Center around age 5 or 6.
Ana Campaign Ramiro and her son Danny both moved to Columbia more than 16 years ago because of what the Thompson Center offered. Danny came to the Thompson Center for occupational therapy to learn skills such as brushing his teeth, washing his hands, getting himself dressed, and waiting his turn. The main goal of the Thompson Center is to assist families from the point of contact by providing them with access to services in the community, along with routine follow-up care over time. Executive Director Dr. Steven Shokoff says the new facility will bring innovations that will better patient experiences.
It's going to be a space that is going to allow us to really double the impact for the patients that we currently serve here at the center. The specialized layout, for those of you who have seen the tour or will see it afterwards, is designed to allow us to grow our existing services and to innovate as well.
The new clinical facility features 14 therapy rooms, 2 therapy classrooms, 2 group therapy rooms, and 1 play therapy gym.
Today, in this wonderful building where I recognize that this is twice or 3 times the size of when we first started receiving services here at the Thompson Center, I reflect on all the ways that the Thompson Center has contributed to and improved my family's quality of life.
The new therapy clinic is right across the parking lot from their current clinic. Reporting in the studio, Kalia Gaither, KOMU8 News.
Well, turning to the White House now, an independent counsel is now investigating President Joe Biden's handling of classified documents as he was leaving the vice presidency.
Yeah, this comes after another batch of classified documents was discovered, this time in the president's home in Delaware. This new set of documents is in addition to the documents found back in November in one of Biden's old offices. The U.S. Attorney General announced a former Trump-appointed U.S. attorney will serve as special counsel.
This appointment underscores for the public the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, and to making decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law.
The White House press secretary said in a press conference today that the president had no knowledge of any documents, but promised cooperation from the president and his administration.
We are confident that a thorough review will show that these documents were inadvertently misplaced and the president and his lawyers acted promptly upon discovering of this mistake.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, U.S. House Republicans were quick to call for an investigation of their own into the president.
Now, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy today pointing out the irony of the situation.
But I think Congress has to investigate this. Here's an individual that's been in office for more than 40 years. Here's an individual that sat on 60 Minutes that was so concerned about President Trump's documents locked in behind, and now we find it just as a vice president keeping it for years out in the open in different locations.
Now, on the other side of the aisle, U.S. House Democrats standing by President Biden.
Yeah, they're saying there are distinct differences between him and former President Donald Trump.
People are bringing forth the documents. They're not obstructing access to them.
Meanwhile, President Biden took some time away from the spotlight today to honor the late Ash Carter.
Now, Carter served as Secretary of Defense for nearly 2 years under President Barack Obama. Carter's time in that role is just a small part of his long record of public service. Now, he previously worked on both nuclear and defense policies. President Biden credited Carter with making the military more inclusive and praises his commitment to the nation's men and women in uniform.
Ash understood to his core that we have a sacred obligation to give them what they need and support they need when we send them into harm's way.
Carter died last year on October 24th. He was 68 years old.
Coming up, more children are dying from gun violence since the pandemic. A look at the numbers and how one mother is calling for action.
Plus, storms tear through the southeast. Hear one person's scary firsthand account.